Happy Wednesday, everyone. Well, not if you're Whoopi Goldberg, a.k.a. Karen Johnson. Yeah, who knew Whoopi was a Karen? I thought that was only for white people, like Toyota Priuses and skiing. Roll it, Francis.
Good morning and welcome to The View. You all saw the news. Whoopi will be back here in 2 weeks. Okay?
It's so cute when one of their side gets punished. They sulk like they ran out of raw cookie dough in the green room.
There should be a Lifetime movie about Whoopi Goldberg's recent meltdown, complete with somber piano music and way too much uncomfortable eye contact. Her ego? It went into witness protection after Greg Gutfeld's brutal roast. This takedown is messier than a Real Housewives reunion during a hurricane. Watch Whoopi unravel faster than her last joke bombed. Because if you thought daytime TV was dramatic before, you haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, ABC suspended Whoopi for 2 weeks because she said the Holocaust had nothing to do with race. She said this on a show called The View, which makes everything about race. Except now.
The Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
It's about a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man.
Yeah, that's heroically stupid. Even for The View.
Whoopi Goldberg just had a meltdown so dramatic, it made toddlers look emotionally composed. She came apart like a bargain bin sweater in the spin cycle, unraveling from rage to ramble. Next thing you know, she's sermonizing from the pulpit of her faux leather recliner, preaching to no one in particular. The spark? Fox News' resident sardonic goblin, Greg Gutfeld, wielding sarcasm like a flamethrower in a paper factory.
Yesterday on The View, otherwise known as Hell's DMV, Whoopi Goldberg asked how much different are the values of the Trump administration from the Taliban.
We have a leader who has repeatedly demeaned women,
Right.
wants to defund organizations that benefit women, calling on the media to shut up, specifically wants to give preferential treatment based on...
This passage has a sharp, satirical tone and is clearly critical of The View and Whoopi Goldberg in particular. The phrasing is rich. In metaphor, comparing the show to 5 malfunctioning Siri devices and describing the moderation as a conductor with a tambourine, which suggests chaos and a lack of meaningful direction. The line about Whoopi coasting toward her breakdown and prioritizing her feelings over the facts underscores the author's perception that emotional responses are replacing reasoned discourse on the show.
Wow. Talk about groundbreaking to actually hear a celebrity say something mean about the Taliban. How dare they compare them to Trump? The Taliban should sue. Guess they ran out of Hitler analogies. So as they bash the president, I'm reminded how entertainers rarely express any rage over any strand of misogynist Islamism. If they did, we might take their rage toward Trump seriously. A reminder, the Taliban throw acid in girls' faces for going to school. Yeah, I guess that's like defunding Planned Parenthood. Radical Islam is all for killing gays. And I guess that's the same as making some rude jokes. No, Trump's past rudeness is a product of a rude culture, one fed and fattened by a coarse entertainment industry.
Imagine her horror when, with his trademark smug grin and a satirical arsenal locked and loaded, Greg Gutfeld decided he'd had enough of Fatrix's theatrical presence and that signature expression of disbelief, as if mocking the oracle of daytime drama were some kind of crime. Whoopi, who responded with all the emotional resilience of a damp napkin, was left reeling as Gutfeld's comeback hit with such force it reverberated beyond network lines.
Canada, apparently they're throwing tariffs on manatee meat and bovine semen, which means The View is very unhappy. Oh. Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
Gutfeld dismantled Whoopi's talking points with the precision of a chef, deboning a fish, while she drifted into another monologue about whatever cause happened to be trending in her tightly sealed echo chamber that week. This wasn't your average roast. Whoopi has turned emotional grandstanding into a full-blown performance art, like a magician pulling a dove from her sleeve that coos, "How dare you?" On cue, she reaches for the ever-handy invisible oppression, card anytime someone dares to challenge her logic. When Gutfeld exposed the gaping holes in her Swiss cheese reasoning, Whoopi didn't counter with a well-formed argument. She flailed, opting for theatrics over thought. But let's be clear, that meltdown wasn't a vulnerable moment. It was performance art disguised as passion. She remains the undisputed queen of the smug parade, starring in a daily pageant where 5 co-hosts compete to say the most self-evident thing with maximum self-satisfaction.
They're small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter. So instead, let's check out this clip from Monday's episode of The View when the ladies put their science caps on and discuss the soul.
At this point, The View feels less like a talk show and more like a live-action reenactment of a Twitter mob. So when Greg Gutfeld metaphorically strolled into the conversation, he didn't just poke fun, he lobbed truth bombs straight into a fortress built entirely out of feelings. The self-righteousness on The View is so thick it might as well be listed as the 6th co-host, a point Gutfeld made with his usual smirk. Caught mid-monologue, Whoopi looked as though she'd accidentally wandered into a logic seminar. Her face said it all. "How dare you question me, peasant?" She let out a groan as if Atlas himself had just handed her the globe, then launched into a dizzying flurry of vague historical name drops, pseudo-intellectual sidebars, and what could only be described as emotional interpretive dance.
Ran down the hallway.
The rapture is here.
Rapture's here. And then also I learned that the cicadas are coming.
Cicadas.
Cicadas.
Although I love
for the first time in like
No,
100 years,
no.
for the first time in many, many years.
No,
And so-
every 17 years this happens.
well, that's not what I read, but maybe, maybe you know better. All those things together would maybe lead one to believe that, either climate change exists
That's one
or
of the
something
points.
is really going on.
returning. Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's underground. It can't. I don't think
It happens, and the eclipse, they've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses happen, and they actually can say when these things are going to happen.
Amazing. Oh. That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years.
The irony? Gutfeld didn't have to do much, just hold up a mirror. What he saw reflected back was a show powered more by outrage than insight, featuring a lead host who mistakes volume for credibility and a panel so allergic to dissent, they risk breaking out in hives if exposed to a conservative idea for more than 10 seconds. As Whoopi scrambled for a comeback, her co-hosts nodded along like cult choir members humming the same tired tune. And let's talk about those co-hosts for a second. Every time Whoopi flailed, they leaned in with anxious support, their faces screaming, "We weren't briefed for this." This wasn't just one person crashing. It was a synchronized group. Nosedive. In contrast, Gutfeld didn't just make Whoopi look unprepared. He exposed the absurdity of the entire production. The panel quickly deployed their go-to maneuver, circle the wagons. The result? A makeshift group therapy session where emotions reign supreme and accountability is treated like a foreign invader. Sunny Hostin attempted damage control with a word, salad so convoluted it could bring a thesaurus to tears, while Joy Behar sat blinking like she had just discovered the laws of physics. Somehow, Gutfeld's satirical jab was recast as an attack on women, daytime hosts, and possibly anyone who's ever owned a coffee mug with a motivational quote on it.
Austin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from sunny Austin. Sounds like a town. We're in sunny Austin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from...
The real irony? No one outside that studio was buying the act. Meanwhile, The internet lit up like Times Square at midnight. Memes, reaction videos, TikToks comparing the panel to Red Bull addled elves. It was open season. Whoopi's breakdown was instantly dissected, remixed, and replayed in slow motion with a soundtrack of dramatic violins. What made it even more humiliating? This wasn't a one-off. It was just another entry in the ever-growing anthology of classic